Hello friends, welcome to my channel. So today in this video we will be learning testing in Python. So when you learn any language, you write very little code and create simple files. But when you become a professional or work on bigger project, you end up writing millions of lines of code. Also, when you work in companies and bigger companies, many developers work on the same project and contribute to the same Python modules, packages, classes, and as the size of the project increases, the complexity of the code also increases. So you modify one piece of the code and it impacts other pieces of the project, and unintentionally you introduce bugs that not only impact your code but other developers' code as well, which end up blocking the whole project. And this problem will become bigger and bigger once you add more and more lines of code. So testing in Python can help solve this problem. So basically, testing is a method when individual units or functions or methods are tested to make sure they work properly. And if you want to be a good programmer, you really need to master this skill. So let's learn how to do an efficient testing in Python. So for this video, we will be using PyCharm. PyCharm is a very strong IDE for writing Python code. I have made a different video for explaining about how to use the PyCharm. So please visit the channel to know more about how to use the PyCharm. Okay, so I have created a project, PyCharm testing, a small project, and where I have two files, multiply.py and test.py. So we will be the file that we want to test is multiply.py, and we will be testing the functions in this file. And to test any of the modules, like the functions that are in the Python file, we simply create another Python file. So I have created another Python file, test.py. And when you have many modules, then you have to create Python files for each one of them to test it individually. And another important thing to note is these test files never run in the production. We run this before we push these actual modules into the production and make sure these modules are working fine. So let's start with writing a simple code. So let's say I have a small function, multiply numbers. So this function will just take two arguments, so num1 and num2, and what it will do is it will just multiply them. So we will return num1 multiplied by num2. Okay, so I just saved this file. So now what it will do is it will take two arguments, two numbers, and multiply them. So now test this function. So we can test this function in this test.py. So Python actually have a built-in library called unit test. So we just need to import that in our test Python files. So unit test. Okay, and another important thing is when we are testing a specific Python file. So let's say here I am testing multiply Python file. So I need to import that as well. So either I can import the functions in that, or I can just import the whole file. So I will be importing the whole file here. So multiply. Okay, here we go. Okay, and so next is we need to create a class. So let's say I create a class, and we can name anything, and all our tests actually will be in that class. So let's say I say my test is test multiply, and then this class inherit unit test and the test case. Okay, so now we have everything here, and then what we have to do is now we can create multiple tests in this class. So let's say I create our first test is diff, and then test, let's say I name it you can name it anything. So let's say I'm creating my first test to test multiply, and then let's say it's my first test, and then it takes a self. That's the beauty of PyCharm, it's added it by itself, the argument. And then I just defined the variables that I need to pass in the multiply class and this method. So I'll define num1 is equal to, let's say I take 10, and then num2 equals to 20. So now what I'm doing here is, so I will be calling the multiply method, multiply class, this particular function, and pass these values, and then I'll compare that what is the real values versus what is the value that actual values. So let's see basically. So I'll just put that in a variable called result, the value. So what I have to do is I just have to call the multiply class and then multiply number function, and then I just pass these values, num1, okay, num2. Okay, so once I pass this, so what this unit test or test case has a method called like it has lots of methods. So let's see basically. So I can call it by itself, and then so now you can see it got inherited all the different methods that exist in this test case. So now it has, and you can look at it like different methods. So so what we are doing here is we are comparing the value, actual value versus real value. So in that case we can just use the assert equal. So assert equal, when I click it, it says like first, second, and the message. So what we can do is assert equal, and then I can define that, okay, I need to compare this. So I will compare this with the actual. So so result with, so what will be the actual value? So okay, so now I'm comparing with when we multiply, so the value should be 200, and I can put a message also here, so that if the result fail, what message you want to display. So MSG, okay, so let's say I say multiplication is incorrect. Okay, so this is our first test, and in order to test this, what I have to do is I just need to define unit test.main, and then so what it will do is it will run the main class and all the functions in that main class. So when I run this, okay, beautiful. Now you can see that it ran one test, and that's the time, nothing, and then its result is okay. So it's a happy path. So now let's do another is negative test. So when I change this, let's say to 100, so the result will be something else, but it doesn't match. So let's run this and say run test. Cool, perfect. So now what you can see here is it's giving me the whole message that okay, it broke at line number 11, and it's saying that the 200 is not equal to 100. So that means the result was 200, but the value that we think that doesn't match. So, and it's showing the multiplication is incorrect, and then it's failed, and failure status is equal to 1. Okay, so now let's create another method here where want to test like if someone entered a text value or a string instead of a number. So let's create a method here, a function test multiply 2, and then instead of giving a number here, I'm giving some string. Okay, here also some string. Okay, and now instead of this, I'm giving it okay a type error. Okay, and here the message will be entered value is not a number. Okay, so now let's run this. Okay, so here is two tests ran but one error, and see, okay, so type error cannot multiply sequence. So now this time what is happening here is actually it is failed in our test class because we are not catching this error in our main class. So let's go to our main class, and what we do here is let's catch this error by defining this in try catch, defining that in try. Okay, so try, and then let's have an exception here. Okay, and then accept, and then what we define here is type error as error, and then let's return the error. Okay, and now let's save this, and then we go back here and run this again. Okay, invalid syntax, so we forgot to add here semicolon. Okay, now let's run this method here. Okay, so let's run. Okay, so oops, so now it's saying the error is at line number 18. So what is happening here is it's an assertion error. So what they are saying here is it's not equal to class of type error. So that means the returned result that is coming from here, type error, it's actually not equal to the returned class. So what is happening here is actually we need to use some other method, because now we cannot use an equal here, like the assert equal here. So what we have to do is we have to use some instance of type error method. So for this actually Python has a documentation, the whole sort of documentation. So let's look at there what different methods are available over there. Okay, so you can go to unit test, the unit test framework, and here we have list of method available. Okay, so we have used assert equal here, so it checks when a equals to b. So here in our case we have to check the instance one. So we have this is instance, so this is a perfect use case for us. So we can use this specific method in our use case. Okay, so now let's replace with this one. So what is happening here is, so the returned error is actually an instance of type error class. So we are using this assert instance one, so that if it's an instance, so it both should match and it will pass. This time it should pass. So let's run this again, hopefully, finger crossed. Okay, perfect. So now you can see it ran, both the test cases are passed, and we are able to see that yes, we have actually captured both the use case in this specific test file. Okay, so I hope you have learned from this video that okay, how to do the testing in Python. There are two different test cases that I entered, like so first is when we have to pass the happy path where we are giving the numbers, and second is when we are giving some gibberish text instead of giving the numbers. So this is a very common two test cases, but you can add many test cases, like covering when there is a blank value. There are many test cases you can enter, but as this was a simple class, but when you write an actual module, you have to cover as many test cases, so that you make sure when you deploy to the production your actual class, it should cover all the mostly use cases, and you're able to catch the error or the bugs before it goes to the production. So that was all about testing in Python. And if you have any questions, please leave your questions in the comment section, and please subscribe this channel, and keep learning Python. And there are other videos also, so please go to the channel and look for other videos if you want to learn more about Python. And there would be a couple of more videos on the Python, and after that we will start learning the machine learning and artificial intelligence classes. Okay, thanks for watching.